Hi everyone, this is William back with the 1907 diary entry. I think every video I did yesterday, and I believe I did 4, was interrupted by noise of some kind, and by the end of the day I was really fit to be tied. Well, you know, it was an exceptionally nice day and it was a Saturday. So hopefully we can do the diary videos today without the same complication. We'll see. So this is a long diary entry, which we'll do in 2 parts. It's the 20th of September 1917 in the Crimea. You can remember the big event of the 19th was that relatives showed up unexpectedly for tea. Ksenia and Sandro and their daughter Irina, and Aunt Minnie and her 2 children, and they had been invited by Maria, who hadn't told anyone about it. Well, so that was awkward. So today we have 2 big events: a picnic at a waterfall and Dmitri's birthday. So it's not actually Dmitri's birthday. Dmitri's birthday was on the 6th of September, so 2 weeks before they celebrated it. And if you recall, in 1906, they also celebrated it not on the day of his birth, but on his name day. And so I'm wondering if they did that because they didn't want to have his birthday taking place within just a couple days of the day that his mother died, and the memorial service that they had every year for his mother's death. So yeah, it would make sense then that they would celebrate his birthday on his name day, since the 2 events were so close. Okay, so let's dive in. Oh, and it's a Thursday, I should say. We went swimming, studied, and had lunch, as always. But today we went to see the waterfall of Uchan-Su. Maria and Miss June stayed home. GM rode horseback with me. MN and Boria rode in a carriage which also contained a huge basket with fruit and water. It was my first time going to a waterfall. I took lots of photos. True, there's not much water there, but if you imagine there's a stormy waterfall, you get an image that is truly very grand. We climbed to the first 2 levels, and I walked on the rocks. There you become aware of the insignificance of man, compared, for instance, to the rock face. We got home pretty late, at 6:30. Before dinner, Maria gave me my gifts. She gave me flasks in a leather case and a leather box for gloves. Aunt gave me a rug. Miss June, masses of little knives. GM, a huge rounded knife. MN, a little flashlight. Boria, a folding knife with a fork. What I like most of all is the big knife and the stamps GM gave me. Crazy. I dreamed about cigarettes. True. That would have been better than everything else, but what can I do? I'm terribly sorry, though, that they didn't give them to me. Papa didn't send anything, so I haven't lost hope that they'll let me. It's impossible that Papa won't give me anything. Okay, so he's expressing himself a little sort of ambiguously here and there, but so yeah, a nice birthday outing, a picnic. They go to this waterfall that I looked up, Uchan-Su. It's still a big tourist attraction in the Crimea. It's quite high. I think it's 380 meters from top to bottom. And the name, it sounds, like it's from the Far East, but It actually is the indigenous Crimean, so would that be Tatar, I think, word for flying water, I believe. So it definitely made me think of my childhood with Multnomah Falls here in the Columbia River Gorge, and Beacon Rock, which we used to, was it Beacon Rock? Haystack Rock? I don't know. There are all of these in the Columbia River Gorge and at the coast. It's fantastic. It seems like there's, when you're taking that drive, it seems like there's a waterfall, every few miles. So I have great childhood memories of climbing up to the different levels, as Dmitri says. There are stairs and you can climb up or hike. Yeah, you climb up to different levels of Multnomah Falls, and yeah, it's really, really something to behold. And in Davos too, there are lots of waterfalls that you can hike to. So it's a little odd, isn't it, that Dmitri had never been to one before. It's not even clear from what he says if this was the first time that he'd seen a waterfall, but I think he must have seen one at least from a distance. But the first time anybody had taken him so he would have a chance to climb around on the rocks, and yeah, surprised me a little since he's 16, but I guess because of my own childhood proximity to the Columbia River Gorge, I kind of never thought about kids growing up without waterfall experiences. So he and GM ride on horseback. Maria Nikolaevna and little Borya ride in a carriage, and it's a real picnic, a big basket with fruit and water. So that sounds very fun. And yeah, he obviously really enjoyed it. He brought his camera. He took lots of pictures. I don't know what they have. The photo album that he had, that he managed to bring with him out of Russia, and the photos that he took after the revolution in France and the US and other places, those belong to the Ilinsky family, and many of them have been donated to the Tsarskaya Selo Museum in Tsarskaya Selo outside of St. Petersburg. But I don't know how many of his photographs he was able to take with him, and what happened at the time of his exile to Persia, his banishment to Persia. And I don't know, if ones that were left in Russia were destroyed or ended up in museums or archives. I have just recently established some very promising contact with two historians in Russia. And in fact, one of them was the person who sent me the transcription of these 1906-1907 diaries from the archive in Moscow. So yeah, maybe we'll be able to see some of these photographs. Wouldn't it be great to see a picture of, very informal pictures of Dmitri and the Lamings and little Borya having fun on this picnic and checking out the waterfall? I would love that. So yeah, here's our Dmitri the poet. And so I believe from what I read that the Uchansu waterfall is pretty seasonal. Like, it's a pretty impressive waterfall in the spring when you have the runoff from the snow on the mountains. And they're there in September, so probably not at its most impressive. But I don't know, when Dmitri talks about imagining a stormy waterfall, if he means this waterfall when it's at its peak or when there's a storm, or if he means just a raging waterfall that you would see, like Niagara Falls or something like that. I don't know, but he's imagining it. He's an imaginative kid, and so he can stand there and form an image in his mind of what it would be like to see a truly magnificent waterfall. And then he also, as you know, is contemplative and poetic and prone to philosophizing. So he takes away from this the insignificance of man. And I would say that he probably means the transitoriness of man, compared, for instance, he tells us, to the rock face that the waterfall is falling down. So always an interesting kid, our Dmitri. Okay, so they get home just about an hour before dinner time, and his birthday is not a big event. As you can see, well, Ella has her strict rules, so none of the relatives who are currently in the Crimea, and there are a lot of them, are coming over. They're not allowed to come over on a Thursday. Aunt Minnie comes, just try to keep her away. And yeah, other than that, it's the little family group and these interesting gifts that yeah, Dmitri and Maria and everybody connected to them must have had just stacks and stacks of decorative wooden boxes and leather cases, because if you've been following along the 1921 diary series, and you know, throughout Dmitri's adult diaries, this is the go-to gift. They're always giving each other these decorative boxes with little decorative bottles inside of them. Here he calls them flasks, but I think that's yeah, that's maybe a mistranslation, because I think they're these little decorative bottles, and they must have just had piles and piles of them, and Dmitri would give them to Maria, and Maria would give them to Dmitri, and Dmitri would give them to the Polovtsovs, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, go figure. And he also gets a nice practical box for his gloves. So white gloves would have been a part of his dress uniform. So that was a nice gift from her. Aunt Minnie gives him a rug, and as I think I mentioned once before, Dmitri tended to get very attached to his furnishings. And wherever he lived, his furniture was always so important to him, and it was a big concern of his when he was at the sanatorium at the end of his life, that his furniture was being stored in a barn somewhere, and there was possibly a leak, and he wanted to make sure it was being taken care of. So I think, yeah, the rug was probably very much appreciated. Not the sort of thing you would originally associate with a 16-year-old boy, but yeah, I mean, I think in Dmitri's case, it probably was something that he liked, even though it's not his favorite gift. So then the rest of his gifts are knives, which is interesting. He must have had a collection of different kinds. So Miss June gives him masses of little knives. So what the heck would those have been? I don't know. Hard to picture. GM gives him a huge rounded knife, and I meant to look that up. I meant to type the Russian words into Google and then click the images and see if I could figure out that it was some kind of, you know, something. It wouldn't have been a Gurkha knife, but something like that, some sort of specifically Central Asian. When I think of Central Asian knives, I think of the kinjal, which are not rounded in any way or curved. So I don't know. I will look that up and report back to you, but it's a big one. And so MN gives him a little flashlight. I meant to look that up too, because the word is ambiguous. It's in modern Russian, it's the same word. You use the same word for flashlight and for lantern. So I meant to look up if they had flashlights back then, let alone a little one. Did they have battery-powered things in 1907? I kind of don't think so. So maybe it was some kind of little lantern. Yeah, if he wanted to go out and listen to the plaintive cry of an owl, that sort of thing at night, he could take his little flashlight or his little lantern. Borya got him what sounds like a sort of Swiss Army knife. So it's a folding knife, but it has this additional attachment of a fork. So, yeah, I guess that's handy, although my assumption is that when a Grand Duke went on a picnic, that there was probably actual silver in this basket of fruit and water. On the other hand, since Dmitri was going to be going into the military, it could, I wonder if he ever used it. But yeah, the impression I get is simply that he collected knives, and so that people were trying to find interesting knives to give him. So sweet little Borya, who was about 10 at this time, probably bought this knife with his pocket money at some shop in Yalta. Okay, but of course he's disappointed in two ways. Firstly, because he hasn't got the thing that he's been dreaming about and writing about for weeks. He hasn't gotten cigarettes or permission to smoke. So I'm sure he was hoping to get, a gold cigarette case or something like that, and a carton of cigarettes and, matches or a lighter or whatever they used in 1907, the whole apparatus, maybe an ashtray. Yeah, that's what would have just thrilled him. But he didn't get that, and he didn't get explicit permission, actual official permission to smoke. He's taking it in stride. He's terribly sorry, but what can I do? He's not getting angry. So the other issue is that nothing has arrived from Papa, and he's not freaking out about that. In fact, it's giving him a little hope that maybe the smoking stuff is going to come from Papa, and whatever gift Papa is sending, it just hasn't arrived yet. And if Papa sends him the smoking stuff, then maybe he figures he will be given permission to smoke. So there's that last little ray of hope. And tomorrow we will be finishing this long diary entry off. Some more people come in the evening for his birthday, but they're friends of Ella's, so they are allowed to come. And there's tension. Again, Dmitri is vigilant about the moods of the people in the household, and there's a bit of an eruption. So that is coming next time, and then the diary entry after that. You will be able to find out what happened in relation to Papa and whether he comes through or not. All right, so definitely come back, and I'll see you next time.